the young and the restless spoilers shock. Billy Abbott had reached his breaking point. The weight of his current life, filled with uncertainty and frustration, had become unbearable. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was constantly being overshadowed, belittled, and manipulated. In a desperate attempt to find clarity, he found himself standing outside Victor Newman's office, his hand poised to knock on the heavy wooden door. When he finally mustered the courage to enter, Victor was waiting, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. Victor Newman, the patriarch of the Newman family and a ruthless businessman, had always seemed to have it out for Billy. But today, Billy needed answers. He needed to know why Victor seemed so intent on defeating him. What had he done to deserve this relentless campaign against him? As Billy sat down, Victor's demeanor was calm, almost inviting. It was a rare sight to see Victor in such a mood, and it only served to make Billy more uneasy. "Why?" Billy asked, his voice tinged with frustration and confusion. "Why are you so determined to beat me down? What have I ever done to you?" Victor leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled under his chin. For a moment, he simply observed Billy, as if weighing how much to reveal. "It's not about you, Billy," Victor finally replied, his voice smooth and calculated. "It's about Jack. I've always wanted to bring him down, and Chancellor Abbott is the key to that." Billy was taken aback. "Chancellor Abbott? What does that have to do with Jack?" A slow, cunning smile spread across Victor's face. "If you join me, Billy, we can use Chancellor Abbott to take Jack down. And when Jack is out of the picture, the CEO position at Jabot will be up for grabs. Who better to take that seat than you?" The proposition hung in the air like a dangerous lure, glittering with promise but reeking of deceit. For a moment, Billy was stunned into silence. The idea of finally stepping out of Jack's shadow, of becoming the leader he always felt he could be, was intoxicating. His relationship with Jack had been strained for years, they were brothers in name but rivals in every other sense. It wasn't just sibling rivalry, it was a deep-seated animosity that had festered over time, turning them into adversaries rather than allies. Billy felt a flicker of excitement at the thought. Could this be his chance to prove himself? To step out of Jack's shadow once and for all? But even as the thought crossed his mind, a warning bell sounded in the back of his head. This was Victor Newman he was dealing with, a man known for his manipulation, his betrayal, and his ruthless pursuit of power. "Think about it, Billy," Victor continued, his voice as smooth as silk. "You'd finally get everything you've ever wanted. Power, respect, and the chance to show Jack and the world what you're truly capable of." Billy's mind was spinning. It was true that he and Jack were no longer close, in fact, they barely spoke anymore unless it was to hurl insults or accusations at each other. In many ways, Jack felt more like an enemy than a brother. And yet, there was a part of Billy that hesitated. Was he really willing to betray his own family? To turn his back on everything he had ever known just for a taste of power? He knew what Victor was doing. This wasn't just about Jack or Jabot, it was about Victor's own game of chess, his endless quest to control everything and everyone around him. And Billy was just a pawn in that game. But Victor's offer was so tempting, so perfectly tailored to Billy's deepest insecurities and desires, that he couldn't help but consider it. Victor watched him carefully, his eyes gleaming with a mix of amusement and anticipation. He knew he had planted a seed of doubt and ambition in Billy's mind. He knew how desperate Billy was to prove himself, to escape the shadows that had always loomed over him. And that made him the perfect target for manipulation. "Remember, Billy," Victor said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "This isn't just about defeating Jack. This is about your future. Your legacy. Don't you want to be remembered as more than just Jack Abbott's little brother?" Billy's heart pounded in his chest. The allure of Victor's words was almost impossible to resist. But deep down, he knew the truth. Victor Newman never kept his promises. He had a long history of using people to get what he wanted and then discarding them once they were no longer useful. If Billy allied himself with Victor, he would be nothing more than a tool in Victor's arsenal, a means to an end. But the temptation was so strong. The chance to finally have everything he had ever dreamed of, to stand on his own and carve out his own destiny, was almost too much to resist. And yet, a nagging voice in the back of his mind warned him to be cautious. To think carefully before making a decision that could change his life forever.